Looking to make some healthier habits this holiday season? Make sure to check out our Moving Through Midlife community over on Facebook, as we are doing a Planksgiving event where we are doing daily plank workouts. We will be doing an advent for healthy, happy hips this holiday season, and then also have a sugar challenge, a 2 week sugar challenge that you might be interested in. Happy holidays! Episode 25, How to Organize Paperwork at Home. Today, I'm speaking with Tracy Hoth, a certified life coach who is also a professional organizer with over 13 years of experience. Today, she is not only sharing with us ways to help us organize all of our paperwork, but also is going to help us organize throughout the stages of motherhood, while also sharing how we can get our children involved in this process. Let's listen in.
My name's Tracy Hoth, and Courtney, I'm so excited to be here with you. I got into organizing, I think when I had four little kids. We had four kids under the age of 5 and under, and I could see how much being organized helped. And so I saw friends that would not be able to go out and have fun and do things because they needed to clean or organize or their house was a mess. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I can help people set up systems and reduce the amount of stuff they have and the amount of stuff coming in. And so when my youngest child was starting preschool, I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I started reading books. I made a website. I told everyone, and I got some clients. And then I tried to make sure my website was searchable, and I started helping people get organized. I helped a couple friends for free, and we took before and after pictures. And since then, I've just been helping clients in person for the past 13 years. And then the past 3 years, I've started online. So I coach people online, and I have a membership where I help people in a group format. So super fun.
Do you notice, is there a specific area that you like to focus with people in the beginning in regards to organization?
I think the basic steps, like what are the steps to organizing? If they know, I have 5 steps. If they know the steps, they can follow the steps. And what comes up then is what's keeping them from doing it. So it's all the thought work and what they're believing about it.
Okay, so you go deeper than just the actual organization. It's more getting into why they're not organizing.
Yes. Well,
Why
and
they're
this was the fun part is when I organized in person, I didn't do any of that. I didn't even think about it because I hadn't been exposed to coaching and mindset work and identity shifts. And so when I got certified as a coach, I combined the two. I mean, at first, I almost didn't think it was possible for people to get organized without having someone help them in person. But then I started working online and coaching on Zoom and working on the mindset. And it was amazing. The results that people were getting of spaces they had avoided for years and years, they were able to organize it just through mindset work and having the support and knowing the steps.
right. Yeah, because I would think with organizing, it's pretty basic. Not that, but it is. I think it's more the thought, like having to go through everything and figure out one, how you're going to organize it.
Right.
But then also the mental load of what each piece might mean to you.
Yes. And even backing up a step before that, I helped, this is a great example. I helped a little girl, I'll call her Clara. Her parents hired me to help her get her room organized. And the first thing we did is sat down on the bed and I said, okay, so what do you think about it? What do you think about getting your room organized and keeping it that way? And she goes, oh, it's impossible. Like, if you believe that you don't have the ability or that it's impossible for you to do it, there's no way you're going to create an organized space. So
Right.
let's work on that and loosen that up a little bit, and then go into making decisions about each item and the emotional attachment we have to it. And people think it's just weird that we deal with feelings when we're coaching on organizing, but experiencing the emotions or the feelings that we get is a big part of it too.
Yeah. And thinking about what you had just mentioned with the child, is there anything that I'm thinking of my own daughter here in regards to her room? And I don't know why it is, but her room is kind of chaotic compared to my boy's room. Is there any recommendation that you have for those moms who have children struggling to keep a clean room, of how they could start to help them have a little bit more organization within their room?
That's such a good question. So even me, I can look at my 4 kids and there's a difference. Some like it perfectly orderly and they'll make their bed even and purge regularly. Like, I don't even make them do that, and they do that on their own. And others, let it get messy. So there's probably two things I would say. Is one of them the universal rooms or family rooms, like the kitchen and we can set boundaries on those areas that their stuff needs to be picked up or put away or whatever. If we like things, if our clutter tolerance is less than theirs. And then the other thing is just helping them if they're willing, or when they're younger, we used to go up there and kind of walk through the process. Like, okay, we're going to take everything out. We're going to sort it. We're going to go through the items. Let's decide together how we want to put things back in. Like maybe having shelves for your shoes just doesn't work for you because you're not going to put them back on the shelf. But what if we had a basket? You could just throw them in the basket. So having them be part of the solution is, I think, helpful.
And okay, so you would ask them, because when you said that, I have one of my children who I have the baskets. I have 3 baskets for their shoes as they enter the door. And his always, that person.
Theirs.
Yes. Always ends up right in front of the basket. It never ends up in the basket.
Yeah.
Is that because I did not provide him the opportunity to tell me how he wanted to organize that?
Like how he wanted that out.
Yeah.
You could test it out and say, what would be better for you? What would work better? I think buy-in is huge. But then we can look at ourselves too. And I'm like, oh, I created that, but then I never use it.
Right.
It usually has to do with as I look around my planner or a journal or something like that. So maybe even going into the mindset a little bit, like, what is it that keeps you from putting him in there? Just to get curious about what he's thinking that's causing that result.
Right. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's a constant. And I think maybe because I then just put them away for him, it gets done by someone else. So,
well, and that's where you could say, okay, would a tray be easier? Like one of those trays, and just say, then you just have to get them on the tray.
Right. No, that's a great idea.
And you can always do the reward thing. I mean, depending on what age your kids are, but okay, if this week I see him on the tray, if he buys into that one,
right.
Then we get a reward or whatever. I don't know.
Okay. So with these kids going back to school, what I notice is the paperwork comes home, and whether it be guilt or whatever, I feel like it's so difficult to start to go through all of that paperwork and organize it or toss it. Do you have recommendations of how we can start to organize all of the paperwork that comes home?
Yeah. And I'm super visual. So I like to think of something visual. And with paper, I think of it like a river. So if you think of the sources of a river, like runoff and springs and whatever else water comes from, rain, it goes into the river and then it flows all the way to the end. So that's like paper. It comes into our house, and we need to have created a flow for the paper to go through our house. First, we can look at the sources and try to reduce the number of sources. And there's ways to reduce your mail and not bring paper and not print paper stuff out. So there's things to look at with that. But then when paper comes into the house, when your kids are bringing paper in, where does it go? I always suggest an inbox or like somewhere that is universal that people put it there. With backpacks, I mean, if the kids are younger and they bring a backpack in and they have paper, it's helpful to stand there and quickly go through it and ask them, keep or recycle. Is there action that needs to be taken on this? And then if there's action, I like to have a place where there's temporarily a holding spot for action. If they're going to keep it, then there needs to be a place that it goes for when you keep it. And then if it's something long-term, I mean, I like to use a file cabinet just for long-term things that you keep. So you can kind of see the flow. There's no right or wrong. So if you're listening to this, you can just think of what is your flow and where is the breakdown that's causing a flood. So if a flood is happening with a river, you might see there's too much runoff, or the banks broke of it, or whatever. So there's nothing wrong. We just have to try to fix or create a better flow for the paper that comes in.
Okay. And if you have a file, say a keep file, this is a keep file forever. I'm looking at because I am, I guess, organized chaos, because I have a pile over here of things that need to get done that I procrastinate on. I have a file. I have a file over here of things I want to do. I have a file down here. Do you have some sort of plan for people to where, every Monday you do this or anything like that, where you have to go through it and weed everything out?
Yeah, I would. So once the paper comes in the inbox, there's so many different options. Like you could do once a week. Okay. You could go through it once a week. If you said you're going to go through that paper every day, then you have no option to make excuses or have interruptions. Like I ran a mile every day. I mean, I didn't have an option to say, oh, I'm going to do that tomorrow, because I said I was going to do it every day. So that's the easiest way. I think the hardest and the easiest to go through it every day. Okay. And then I always say, before you put it like in your pile to do, so that would be like a temporary place. You're holding something that needs action. I like to put it in my calendar or write it on, like even a simple way is to have a sheet on the front of that pile. And then that would be, you'd write down the things that you have to do. And then when you plan your week, you could pick out 3 things off the list that need to be done. Or if it's like fill out a form for your kid, it probably has a deadline, and you could put it on your calendar at the deadline as a reminder, but then yours is going to be in that pile for action. Okay. So those are some ideas, but ask me more
that's
specific.
great. No, that's great. No, I like that, because I do that somewhat in regards to, I'll just throw it in my calendar because I'll print papers out. You just talked about not printing everything out. But I'll print stuff out and then I'll file it in my daily planner, so I know when I need to do it. Yeah. So that does help. Thinking back, I know both of us have older children now, but thinking back to when our children were little, and every piece of paper that came in from preschool or those beginning primary years of schooling, everything was so important. Yeah. Or felt so important, the artwork that they brought home. Do you have any tips in regards to that with organizing or helping us just decide what really is important to keep and what we can get rid of, and then also what the children think is important.
Yes. Okay. So one thing that stands out is Joshua Becker once said when we interviewed him was, if everything is important, nothing is important. Mm-hmm. So we're going to just set an example for our kids that, everything's not special and it's not important necessarily. So as we look through papers, I always thought, if it's something that everyone in the class did, like, get rid of it. If it's unique, like it's a story they wrote, or it has something unique to them, then that might be something we want to keep.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. Then I always think, when my child is 30, is he really going to want to look at this, or she? So have that in your mind. You're keeping this to what? Give to him when he's 30 years old. He does not want to see his math paper. My kids, so then what do you do with it? So think of the flow again. So they've went through the papers with you. I have them throw it in the recycle bin. So they learn this is just a natural part of life. We get rid of some stuff so we have room for new opportunities and new stuff coming in. And so then what's the flow? I don't want to go down. So I have a memory bin for each of my kids that it would eventually go in if we decide to keep it.
Okay.
And I don't want to run down to the storage room and put it in there. So my flow is I have a 12 by 12 box that's lit, like one of those archival type boxes. And it's on the main floor. So it's super easy. I can just say, okay, if you want to keep this, go put it in the box. And then maybe on a day off of school, or I don't know, Saturday morning when everybody's home, you can take that box when it's getting full and go down. And what we would do is pull out all the memory bins and we'd sit there. I would sort all the stuff in the box per kid.
Okay.
And then the kid could help me put it in their own memory bin. And in the memory bin, one of the ways to teach the kids that you can't keep everything is you have a folder, and that's as big as you get. Like, that's the amount of stuff you can keep. And look, we can't fit anything else in the folder.
Right.
So then pick your favorite things out of the folder. I like focusing on favorites. And then let's look at what's left and we can make decisions on that. That was a lot. So
no, that's great though. I love everything about that, because I think that helps. And I myself have a little memory, but I like having 3 different boxes for them as well to be able to have.
Yeah. Well, and some of my clients all do it differently. One of them has a box and she puts it under this like piece of furniture. There's room underneath it. And she puts one box for each of her kids and they just put it in that. And when the year's over, they take all that down and store it, for the future. And then maybe she goes through it again, but I wouldn't suggest for the parents that don't make decisions at the moment, because clutter is delayed decisions. So when you keep all the paper your kid brings home because you don't want to make decisions on it, you're just building clutter. And in reality, you never have time to go through it later. So you might as well take 3 minutes and make decisions on it in the moment.
Yeah. Well, and it's also a bigger task. It's now not something that's really quick. You have this huge thing that you now have to go through, and it's an all-day event. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So each little decision is what's going to help. Plus, then you can add the dates on the back so you actually remember whose paper it is, what year they made it, and whatever.
Okay. Perfect. Now, with our children, helping them learning to manage their school paper and their homework, do you have any tips in regards to that?
Well, there's a couple ideas. So go through it with them regularly.
Right.
And kind of guide them along. And so put on your calendar, like maybe you have a Sunday night time when you go through stuff, or maybe it's Friday, right when they get home from school, depending on your schedules. And you're going to review what they have. I mean, you can even have a calendar up on the wall where you help them write their stuff that they have due or that they that you guys are going to do or what your schedules are. You can put it on a universal calendar. Maybe they each get a color of marker. But you can also do that in their own planner, depending on what their age is, and just do a quick review. And it could only be 5 minutes. Like just say, okay, what's coming up this week? What do you have due? How's it going?
Right.
Those 3 questions.
Yeah. And I feel like, they all get these planners. Our children in the district that we're in, we get planners. 3rd grade, they get planners, but nobody's taught really how to use them. They do go over the basic information. Okay, you're going to write in your planner today, your homework. But for whatever reason, none of my children were able to stay consistent with it. So I don't know if it was something that it was not something that they really worked on in school, or if it just happens to be my children that don't.
Or it's when they get home. I mean, think of us. We can put an event on our calendar or a task that we want to do or something that's due. And if we never look at our calendar, we're definitely not going to do it.
Right.
We'll forget. And so they just need to develop the habit of maybe it's every night they glance at it. Like, I always tie it to something you already do.
Okay.
So if it's finishing dinner, you're all still at the table, pull out your planners and look at what's going on the next day. Is there anything we need to prep for? Because then they'd actually have time to finish something before the night is over if they have something due.
Right.
Maybe it's breakfast. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's in the bedroom before they go to bed. I don't know. Tie it to something you do. And then to remember that, like put a sticky note or put an alarm and reminder in your own calendar.
Okay.
So a lot of it could be, I mean, as parents, there's so much to follow up on. Like we can set up all these ideas, but then we're the ones that have to follow up. So I would just encourage people, get the support you need to be able to, if it's accountability or if it's some mindset work, to be able to teach your children those things.
Okay. With busy families, is there any one thing that you recommend that they start working on to help organize their home? Is paper where you usually start with people? I mean, I know you said you do mindset, but is there a place where you actually start with them?
I don't think there's any best or right or wrong place to start.
Okay.
And yes, what they believe is where we would probably consider,
Okay.
but that will come up when they choose a place to start. So in my Organized Life Academy, we constrain to one area per month. Oh. So no matter when you join, like that's where you're going to start, or you pick your own place to start, whatever you want. But you just constraining and picking somewhere. I like to sometimes say, okay, what's bugging you the most? What would make you feel the best if it was organized? And you could pick to start there. Other people might suggest, okay, what's easiest? Bathrooms are really easy because they don't have a lot of sentimental items.
Okay.
So maybe you pick the bathroom.
Okay.
So yeah, I really believe there's no best place to start. It's just making the decision and sticking to that spot.
Okay. What does the mental burden create when we have clutter in our life? When my children are home on the weekends, everything it never finds its place. It doesn't go back to where it began. And I feel stressed. I feel anxious. Is there anything, what is that mental burden that we're feeling from this organization or lack thereof?
Yeah, I think it goes in all those places, like the weight of the clutter. It's like seeing your cluttered countertop nonstop. So it can affect you with that. It could be shame that you're not being a good enough mom and teaching people how to stay organized. Self-confidence. It could affect your health. I mean, we say the cortisol levels affect so many different areas. So stress from being cluttered and living in cluttered spaces, and then especially relationships too, like the stress it causes in relationships, especially if one person is much neater and the other person isn't, or their clutter tolerance is more or less. And that even goes with having people into your home and building relationships like that, or screaming at your kids because you guys can't find anything that you're looking for. So
Right.
all
Yeah.
those things.
Okay.
And it's always there. So another, just to make everyone feel better, remember that it's just a stage
Okay.
too. I mean, when you have little kids, you have so much stuff. And then you go to the stage where you have so many toys. And then you go to the stage where you have so many sports and activities.
Yes.
And so it's just a stage that you're going through. So be kind to yourself a little bit. Again, get the support that you need to help with that, and pick one idea and start implementing that idea instead of, because we think of all the things we could be doing. It's like, whew, we might as well just quit now because there's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking about our children, I liked how you mentioned the different stages. And I was wondering if you might be able to help moms through each stage. Maybe one tip that they can do with, if you have babies, is there one thing that you recommend in regards to organization for those babies and all of the things that they have?
Well, before you even have a baby, just remember you don't need all the things. I remember your first baby, you're so excited to get every little gadget there ever was.
Right.
And then by your fourth baby, you don't even use any of the gadgets. You just throw them on the floor and change their diaper. Maybe the bouncy seat or something, but
yeah,
there's so many cool things out right now. So just remember, less is more. The principle of one thing, like have one diaper bag, have one place you store things, always bring it back to like one thing to help you with organizing. And that would probably pass through all stages, but as you begin, start that thinking through that as you make decisions.
Thinking back to when I had my own children, one thing that we did, because we didn't have like a diaper station, we had a piece of furniture in our room that was like the diaper station. But what I liked was we had a basket, and that basket held, the wipes, the diapers, the cream, whatever else you might need. And I always kept it there so that if once I had more than one child, it wasn't as feasible to go there, but I could tell my oldest to go grab the basket, and that at least he brought the basket back and it had everything I needed in it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So that was one thing that I was thinking of that we did, in our house that was nice for our babies.
Yeah. Well, and this again goes through all the stages, but I feel like hanging things is the easiest. Like if you have the rod space or closet space too, is just to hang as many things as you can. And that again goes to one home for the stuff. Like you created one place for it to live.
Right. Now for toddlers, now they're toddling around and there's all these toys that they have. Anything that you could recommend for that age? And it doesn't have to be specific to the toys. I liked how you said the hanging things. I don't know if that's in regards to toddlers or.
Yeah, I think that's that's one of my friends that we used to do our podcast with. She said that's what the one thing that impacted her the most is she just started hanging everything. But thinking of toys, and I've helped lots of people with toys. And the main problem is there's just too much of it.
Right.
So they get discouraged and down on themselves. Moms do, because they can't keep it organized, but nobody could keep it organized. There's just too many toys. So doing a toy rotation is helpful. Just putting stuff out. Some people might call it a toy library, where if you have a space to put everything away and the kid checks it out, just like they would a library book. And then they have to bring it back before they can get another one. I
love that idea.
And it's so fun.
Yeah.
And you can make it simple just by taking a picture of the item, and then the picture would slide into, however you want to do it.
Right.
But again, keeping it simple, because you're not going to use it if it's complicated. Another client of mine came up with the idea. We put all her toys away, but then her kids each got a bucket, a plain like gray bucket from Home Depot. And then every night they took their bucket and they walked through the house and picked up their toys and brought it back to the room. And so just incorporating something fun. If you think of preschool, it's kept neat because they have it tied to something they do, like every day before lunch, they do cleanup. Every day before nap time, they, read a book or clean up again.
Right.
Cleaning up 10 times in a day.
Yeah.
And that's how it stays orderly. So
perfect. Now that our kids start getting older and sports, and we've got all of the everything that they need for the sport, the outfits, the gloves, the cleats, the whatever. Any ideas for organizing with that?
I mean, I love this. In our home when we moved here, it had in the garage like a 2x4 attached to studs in the wall. So it wasn't really super cute or neat, but it was painted the same color as the walls, and it had nails in it, like giant nails.
Okay.
And then the kids could hang their backpacks up there. They could hang their sporting equipment up there in their own bag for it. And I mean, that I think has been the best thing. They have a place to put it, and it's not in our house. So that keeps it, I think, well, and one of my clients has like a mud room or a shoe closet, which is like its own room. And she has hooks in there where they keep, maybe indoors, like their backpacks, but sports stuff is easy to hang in the garage. And then when they get out of the car, you all just take 2 minutes and make them hang it up on their own hanger. You could even put a little label there to make it fun. But just practice that as we exit the car. I like pulling out the trash and having a trash can there in the garage, and then hanging their stuff up. So we all work together to put stuff away, and it only takes 2 minutes, but if it's not, it's more, but again, that takes the parent.
Right. Well, and I've realized for myself and our family is you always have to know that it's going to take twice as long. You have to practice it twice as long as you think. Like you think, oh, they'll get this in 3 days. Our biggest thing with our children was the lunchbox. They never knew how to get the lunchbox out of the backpack and put it in the kitchen and, clean it out, get it ready for the next day. We thought, oh, we just tell them for a week and then the rest of the year they'll do it. No, we have to tell them constantly.
That's so good.
It's like a whole
good
month.
Ideas. Yeah.
Do you feel that like it's got to be longer than 5 days? And I think a lot of us, because it's so innate for us that we think our kids are just going to pick it up, but their minds aren't there.
Well, and it's that communication thing. So we can say something, and in their mind, that means something totally different. So one of the things, and I think I first saw this with someone that had autism, but they had a checklist, and it had pictures that were very specific. But I think that as like you have when you walk in the door checklist, and it has some very specific things, or clean your room. You can't tell a kid to clean their room. You can say, I want every single thing off of the floor. Like that's way more specific than clean your room, because clean your room could mean shove everything under something.
And you just
clean.
Yes. And you just answered the question for me in regards to, as I'm listening to you, how do I get my daughter to clean her room? Because that's what I do. I say, you need to clean your room this weekend, but I'm not giving her direct, and she's 10. So, I'm not giving her direct orders in regards to that, but maybe I need to be more specific. You need to put your books away. You need to put, and like you said, give her 3 or 4 things to do. And even if she doesn't,
how overwhelming a project is for us. Like I think of that for my business. I'm so overwhelmed. I procrastinate forever. Versus if I break that project down and it's like, send an email to this person. Oh, I can do that.
Right.
So especially a kid that's overwhelmed by her room and she's supposed to just walk in there and know how to clean it. It's like, what are we thinking? We could even go a little further and say, okay, this is just for fun to help both of us. We're going to set a timer for 20 minutes and I want you to get all your books put on the shelf. And I am going to do this task that I need to get done. And then we'll come back together and celebrate, breaking it down. So,
Mhm.
and show her we do the same thing because we get overwhelmed also.
Right. I love it. Thank you. That helped answer. I know now how we're going to have a clean room this weekend.
Yes. And then we could take a break and then we could do another task like right after lunch. We could tie
Right.
it to every meal. Like again, tie it to something you guys do.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Is there anything that you want to make sure that we know or that we are practicing in our houses?
Well, when it comes to the paper, I would just say draw out a flow
Okay.
and then pick one area you're going to work on. Maybe it's
Okay.
reducing the paper coming in. Maybe it's getting an inbox. Like be really simple and just take one step at a time.
Okay. And you said there were 3 things: the keep
Yeah,
that you
I
recommend.
say the inbox,
Mm-hmm.
have a spot where you're going to put the inbox. And if everybody throws their paper on the counter right now, just put it on the counter and say, okay, well, if you all could help me out and put it in this box, that'd be great. And then a temporary place where you do action. So it could be a little temporary hanging file box. It could be a folder.
Okay.
It could be whatever works for you and whatever you have.
Okay.
And then the third place is the permanent stuff, which would
Okay.
be, just think it's easy to use a file cabinet.
Right. Okay. So 3 in, you just throw everything in, then your actionable things, something you have to take action on, and then your keep.
Permanent storage.
Yeah. Permanent.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Can you tell us a little bit more about your academy? I know you mentioned you different months, you focus on different things.
Yes.
Okay.
So Organized Life Academy helps you get organized and actually shift your identity as an organized person. If we can do that, organization will come out of us and it'll be fun and natural if we believe that we are an organized person. So we kind of work on the mindset part and we also work on the practical. We learn the practical steps to organizing. We constrain to one area. We plan our projects. So I teach how to plan a project and what we want to do with it. And then we carry it out and get coached on it. And we post in the community. I show what I'm working on in video format and different things. And then other people can post their pictures in the community and we can support each other. It's really fun.
Okay. Perfect. And that's a monthly membership?
Yep. It's a monthly membership.
Okay.
You can join and leave anytime you want. And all the paper course that teaches you exactly what I was talking is in there. There's so many different bonus ideas, how to create an organized mindset, and so many other things that are in there available.
Okay. And then you mentioned coaching. Do you still offer that, like where you work one-on-one with people, or you do?
I do work one-on-one with my clients. And then I'm also doing a small group of 4 to 6 people that will, that we coach together.
Okay.
Like in a smaller group.
Okay.
So all 3 kind of levels of what you want to invest and how much personal attention you want.
Okay.
And it goes beyond organizing. A lot of people aren't familiar with coaching. So it goes beyond organizing. What we realize like one-on-one coaching and even in the academy is how we're thinking about organizing is how we're thinking about a lot of things in our life, and addressing that is really helpful all around.
So you end up, in essence, being a life coach as well.
Yes.
Like you're, okay.
We're coaching on parenting, on relationships, on self-esteem, on confidence, on all sorts of stuff as it comes up with organizing.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So fun.
Now, where can we find you?
My website is simplysquaredaway.com. And then on Instagram, I'm Tracy Hoth. Facebook is Simply Squared Away. And then I also have a free quick start guide to get organized for life. So if someone wants that, the first step is kind of what I talked about with Clara, is what your belief is.
Okay.
And so it walks you through and gives you my 5 steps to organizing and teaches you how to get a quick start on it. So that's at simplysquaredaway.com/start.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to listen to our podcast. I hope you found this information valuable and useful, and hope that you are able to immediately use some of the information that was provided by Tracy in helping you organize your home. I did want to let you know that she is going to be offering a holiday planning workshop coming up on October 21st at 12 and 8 p.m. Central Time, and the link will be in the show notes. Or if you'd like, you can also join us over in our Form Fit Mom community on Facebook, and I will post the link there as well for you. I hope you all have a great week.